Deidre Tillman says, first time listener, can you give a generic example of paying a home loan of 250K or any amount, really? I haven't looked into a property. I'm interested in understanding the P.I.L.L method.
All right, folks, here we go. So we got $250,000 and it's a 30-year loan at 3.5%. The payment on that is $1,122.61. So this is what we're taught to look at, everyone. We're taught to look at the interest rate and the payment. So if we get an interest rate of 3.5, or we get an interest rate of 3, or we get an interest rate of 2.9, or whatever the interest rate is, we're going to keep working on that thing until we feel good about the interest rate, but we won't know why. And when it comes down to getting the interest rate and we think we've done our duty, let me tell you something about getting the interest rate and the payment that you want. Guess what? 9 out of 10 people you know, no matter what interest rate they have, 9 out of 10 people that you know will never pay off a mortgage. So really, is it the interest rate? Why do we work so hard to get it when 90% of us are going to fail to do the very thing we set out to do? And if you don't believe me, just think about it. Of all the people you've ever known that had a mortgage, how many of those people that you know have actually paid it off? Probably less than 10% of the people you know. And all we talk about is interest rate and payments, but we don't talk about how many of us are actually paying off the mortgage. Let's take a look at this thing. So we got 3.5%. Here's our payment, $1,122.61. We're going to scroll down into the summary. And in the summary, it says, oh, we borrowed $250,000, but it's going to cost us over 30 years $154,139.60 to borrow this money. This interest is nothing more than rent on your money. We go from renting an apartment or renting a house to go into renting money our entire lives. That's the way it's set up. Okay, so now let's ask the question. 3.5% is $154,139, the amount of money that the bank wants over 30 years. This $154,000, is that number 3.5% of the $250,000 we're borrowing? The answer is no. It's actually 61.656%. What? Somehow the bank can turn 3.5% into 61.656%, and all of this is legal, and we go for this? Yes, because we're able to buy a house and make a payment of $1,122.61, which is less than the rent I was paying in my apartment. So of course, I'm going to buy a house, but I don't know how much interest I'm spending each month. In my book, I call it interest consumption. So let's take a look at this thing and see what we can do. First of all, let's add the $250,000 that we negotiated for the price of the house, and now the $154,139.60 that we have to pay in interest over 30 years. And now we look at the total price of the house. This is the true cost of this house. What I was saying was the true cost of this house is $404,139.60. $404,000. That's the true cost of the house. So folks, do we want to pay $404,000 for a home in a $250,000 neighborhood? Of course not. Let's see what we can do about that. So we're looking at the very first payment here. Payment number one, we have $393 going to principal. This number out of your payment, only $393 pays down the principal, goes towards the loan. Where does the rest of that money go? $729.17. That goes to interest. See, folks, here's what I'm talking about. The money in this engine called a loan, the money in this engine is the fuel. The fuel makes the engine run. Right now, when you pump fuel into this engine that allows you to buy a house called a loan, 70% is wasted fuel. 70% does nothing for you. Only 30% does something for you. Why do we have an engine that is so fuel inefficient that the fuel that we pump into it, 70% of it is lost? My goodness. So listen, if you filled up your car with gasoline and 70% of the gas that you put in just went up in vapor and never did anything for you, you never used any of that gas to get from point A to point B, you would be upset. Folks, we need to be upset that 70% of the fuel that makes this engine run, called a loan, the engine that gets you to your destination is zero debt. The engine gets you to the destination. The destination is zero debt. So now, why is it that 70% of the fuel you're pumping in here is not doing a doggone thing for you? Let's see what we can do about that. Now, here's the thing, the way this engine is set up. Here we go. This engine is set up to make a lot of money for the bank. It wastes a lot of the fuel for you, but it goes right. It's not lost. The fuel is not lost. It goes into the bank's tank for them to buy more stuff. Oh my goodness. That's where it's going. It's not lost. It's just 70% is going to somebody else. So what can we do? The way that this thing is set up, folks, it makes a lot of money for them, but there's a weakness in the system. There's a weakness in the system. And the weakness is this: you can never know how it works. Because if you find out how it works, then you will not pay interest like you're paying it now. You will stop wasting that fuel. You will have more of that fuel do more work for you. We're going to turn that fuel around. So here's what I'm trying to tell you. The way that this is set up is that the fuel that's wasted for you, the fuel that's wasted, you can reclaim every single bit of it. You can save at the same rate they're charging you if you know what to do. What? I just said you can save at the same rate that they're charging you once you know how. And this is why this is not taught in schools. This is not taught in business school. This is not taught when you get your real estate license. It's not taught when you get your mortgage license. It's not taught when you go to become a financial planner. It's not taught when you go to become a CPA. How in the world can the most ubiquitous financial tool on the planet that everybody uses, and we receive absolutely no instruction on how we can use this tool to benefit our families? We just go ahead and start using it.
But Don has some valuable information that can contribute to the quality of a person's life, and it only costs you a few dollars. It's his book. Why not get that?
I'm going to go through the P.I.L.L method myself with some of my investment properties. So I'm going to link up with Don, and then I'm going to sit down with him, show him my investment portfolio, and see how I can eliminate interest.